Hello. So I'm continuing chapter 1 from The Path of the Righteous Gentile. I'm on page 6, continuing where we left off. When God created Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden, this was to be the prime dwelling place of the divine presence. But when Adam transgressed God's commandment, the divine presence withdrew and left the earth in favor of the first heaven. Then, with the sin of Cain and Abel, the divine presence withdrew from the first to the second heaven. Then Enoch evoked idolatrous gods, and the divine presence went from the second to the third heaven. From the third heaven it rose to the fourth heaven, because of the generation of the flood. Although Noah was righteous enough to be spared destruction and be designated the second father of mankind, despite his efforts, he failed in his attempt to effect a true rectification of Adam's sin, which was necessary to draw the divine presence back to the desired residence on earth. On the first acts Noah engaged in upon leaving the ark was the planting of a vineyard. Genesis chapter 9, verse 20 and 21. Most biblical commentaries are highly critical of this action. After all, mankind had just been destroyed. To plant a vineyard so as to grow grapes and make wine seems totally inappropriate under the circumstances. But there are those who say that Noah was attempting to rectify the sin of Adam. The Talmud states that, in one opinion, the fruit of the tree of knowledge was the grape. What Adam had done was drink wine in a profane manner. It had been God's intention that Adam should wait until the Sabbath, which was to come in just a few hours, and then the fruit of the tree, the grape, would be used to sanctify the Sabbath and bear witness to the fact that God had created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. It is argued that Noah knew this deeper meaning of Adam's transgression, and by planting a vineyard and using the wine for sacramental purposes, he could achieve the complete rectification of the sin. But Noah failed. He became intoxicated and was discovered naked by his youngest son, Ham, who shamed him by calling Noah's other 2 sons, Shem and Japheth, to see their father's drunken nakedness. Rashi comments on this verse, Genesis chapter 9, verse 22, that Ham either castrated his father or had homosexual relations with him. Shem and Japheth respectfully covered their father with a garment, but the damage had been done. Noah awoke and cursed Ham and his descendants, and the divine presence looked down in pity. Genesis chapter 9, verse 23 through 27. The 7 commandments of the children of Noah remained unheeded as before. The flood, except for a few righteous people, notably Shem and his great-grandson Eber, who established academies of learning for the purpose of understanding and fulfilling the Noahide laws. The academies of Shem and Eber were the first schools in the world. They were mentioned many times in the Talmud, but their profound importance is largely overlooked. The fact is that Shem and Eber were great prophets of God, and it was Shem, rather than his father Noah, who spread the teachings of the 7 laws to all who would listen. Among Shem's illustrious students were Hammurabi, Job, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These schools were the lone bastion of light in the encroaching darkness of the Tower of Babel. The generation of the Tower of Babel produced brilliant scientists. Not only did they learn to master many of the world's natural forces, such as controlling the weather, but they reasoned in their scientific wisdom that the earth had no master, or at least, if it had a master, that they were his equal, and they built a tower to the heavens to challenge the authority of God. They scientifically concluded that, since the flood of Noah occurred in the year 1656 after creation, this meant that every 1656 years the heavens would shake, the depths would open, and the rains would come to destroy the earth. And the Bible teaches, And God descended to look at the city and the tower that the children of man had built. Genesis chapter 11, verse 5. God's descending to look was from the fifth heaven. God took measures to stop his errant children by confounding their language and scattering them to distant lands. Genesis chapter 11, verse 4. Originally, all of mankind spoke one language, the holy language of Scripture, Hebrew, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet being the very instruments of creation. But now mankind had lost this merit and was forced to communicate with each other in the 70 basic languages of the world. During these times, King Nimrod arose with a wickedness that was virtually without precedent. He proclaimed himself God of all the earth and commanded all his subjects to worship him as the actual deity. Those who refused, he killed.